When I read that this movie was scheduled for release on the 8th of April, I thought to myself, lovely jubbly. That gives me 11 days between uploading my review of The Batman and commencing work on this one to do what the fuck I want. Perhaps I'll play some more of The Last Campfire, possibly catch up on some reading, record a podcast maybe. Who knows, I might finally remove the stench off your mom's trachea from my cock, but in retrospect that may take longer than a week and a bit. Regardless, all of that had to remain on pause as my local cinema started showing it from the 31st of March, most likely because it knows I despised the first Sonic film, so it decided to slap me in the face so hard it would make even Will Smith's right hand tingle. That whole altercation he had with Chris Rock at the Oscars happened last night at time of writing, but I imagine the hype has depleted faster than the odds of me being able to remove the stench of your dad's trachea from my cock before Beltane. Dr. Robotnik has escaped the Mushroom Planet and returns to Earth with new ally Knuckles, an anthropomorphic echidna that's also dick bent on fucking with Sonic Staycation, so it's down to the Hedgehog and his latest compadre Tails, the fox from the first installment's mid-credits scene, to keep themselves and subsequently the world away from harm more certain than Victoria Morrison blocking me on all forms of social media. Overall, I preferred this contribution to the first one. The sequel provided a more true depiction of the game in terms of cosmetics. Mercifully this time around we are spared that horrendous design palaver that came with Sonic 1's early visual development. The title character retains his upgraded appearance. Robotnik as well as his gadgets continue their makeover that leans more towards a Sega look, and the new additions are on fleek. Atmospherically speaking, it's also akin to the source material. By comparison to its predecessor, the traits belonging to the legacy characters are more closer to that of their video game counterparts. Also, the environment is utilised way more efficiently when it comes to emulating that platform genre we associate the Hedgehog et al. With, especially during the action scenes, which are a drastic improvement in terms of choreography. Then again, consider what came before it, fucking worse than 10,000 thrusts from an African elephant on Viagra, penile steroids, and fresh off giving up nutting for Lent. MVP goes to Jim Carrey. He takes that high level and intense energy from his first outing as Dr. Robotnik and amplifies it here. Once again, he owns every single scene he's in with relative ease, and I love that he wants to fat suit up for the trilogy so the antagonist is as close to the Eggman we are accustomed to. Sadly, since then, he recently announced that he is seriously considering retiring from the industry. A massive shame, of course, and I would personally like to say, as a fan of his for as long as I can remember, thank you for everything, Jim. You owe us nothing. I really don't have much to add to what I said regarding Ben Schwartz's performance as the title character in my review of Sonic 1. He's clearly passionate about paying homage to the Hedgehog and delivers positive consistency, solidifying my opinion of him being a great choice for the role. Vocally, Tails is portrayed perfectly, and that perhaps has something to do with the fact that Colleen O'Shaughnessy, who has played the character outside of the live-action adaptations since 2014, has reprised her role. Against the others, the audio and animation synchronicity is certainly the most harmonious between O'Shaughnessy and the Fox. I actually didn't know that Tails was being voiced by a Sega original until way after my first viewing, but even before that nugget of information reached my ears, I still thought the chemistry between herself and character was more potent than their fellow duos. If we're talking podium, silver goes to Sonic and Schwartz, bronze to Knuckles and Elba. To be honest, I'm not as high on Knuckles as most people are. Don't get me wrong, Idris Elba did the best he could with the script given, but the material was essentially vocal tone that would come out of the mouth attached to Chris Hemsworth's Thor, mixed with dialogue that was at best a slight variation of what Dave Bautista's Drax would spew. Sure, I like both of those characters, but I didn't come here to be reminded that Marvel is taking over the world. This results in Knuckles failing to exceed anything past one-dimensional, and his arc is predictable as fuck. Also, it wouldn't take even the dumbest cunt in existence to work out that when an emerald containing ultimate power is involved in your mission, Robotnik will without hesitation become less trustworthy than Eddie Murphy's pull-out game. Finally, I can talk about the negative aspects. You didn't seriously think this review was going to be filled exclusively with praise. If so, then I guess that would make you the dumbest cunt in existence. Anyway, if you watched my review of Sonic 1, you'd recall that I critiqued it for ripping off humour from other mediums. The sequel leveled up that sin by ways of copying those jokes from its predecessor and shamelessly pasting them on its film reel, which is the equivalent of seeing someone regurgitate food they ate out of a recycling bin and then having a nibble on the vomit yourself. If it was going to nick anything from its forerunner, it should have taken that commandeered scene from Days of Future Past, as Sonic must have kept forgetting that he had powers. For example, there was one sequence where the super speed would have solved a problem instantly, but instead he opted opted for a slow and stealthy approach, which ends up putting himself and Tails in a bullshit dance-off that slays the fluidity quicker than I can a crate of ale before getting out of bed. You may have noticed that aside from Robotnik, I haven't mentioned any of the human characters up until now. They were relatively useful in Sonic 1 because setup purposes, but here it seemed like the writers were unsure of what to do with them, so they just conjured up a subplot so generic I didn't even try to give a fuck about it. If the goal was to disrupt the pace, sabotage immersion, and tarnish the movie with mediocre acting, then mission fucking accomplished. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 has a 122-minute runtime, which is too long for a film of this nature. I would say that the subplot no one wanted, needed, asked for, or deserved is responsible for half an hour of that bloat. Sure, the human narrative had to tie in with the main story, but if the writing was better or the editing was helmed by someone with taste, it could have been weaved together in a way where it would have only been featured briefly in the second act, saving us time for something more enjoyable like playing Jenga, making butterfly cakes, or learning poi with knife-wielding scorpions at the end of the Oddballs. I still firmly believe that in this case the sequel is better than the original, but on the whole Sonic the Hedgehog 2 isn't a good movie. Yes, it's heading in the right direction, but all obstacles in the way are made of mirrors, and it's elected to embark its journey of progress on a sloth that suffers from hodophobia, has a hangover, fuck all cardio, insists on frequent piss breaks, and the road is made of the hardcore fanbase's tears and anal hymens.